This is Councilman Mark Spears from the Jefferson Parish Council, who's with me today, as well as Dr. Jerry Satanovich, who's the coroner for Jefferson Parish. As we know, we had an incident that occurred yesterday as it relates to a situation that started as a road rage that began on the Greater New Orleans Bridge, went down General de Gaulle, continued to Berman Highway, took a right on Berman Highway, and came to stop at the corner of Berman and Holmes. We've been able to validate that through both independent witnesses as well as Mr. Ronald Gasser's statement relative to this particular situation. We also know that Mr. Gasser, at that particular location, admitted to shooting Joe McKnight Jr. at that location. So, as a result of that, we have begun this investigation. So, let me tell you where we are and why. First, out of fairness and equity to the life that Joe McKnight Jr. lived, as well as the life that Ronald Gasser lived, this investigation is not going to be moved, influenced, coerced, changed in any way by any external force, comments, or otherwise. I can't control what's on the social networks, and if we want to continue to be silly, that's fine. What I can control is when people in this community decide to demonstrate, that they do so peacefully. And they do so in accordance with the Code of Ordinances of Jefferson Parish, as well as the laws of the state of Louisiana. And if those ordinances and laws are not abided by, they will be arrested and put in jail. Because if we are truly worried about fairness and equity to all the parties involved, they will allow this investigatory process to proceed in the deliberate and credible manner that it should and will be conducted in that fashion, like all other investigations, not unlike the reputation that this organization has had for dozens upon dozens of years. So let me make that perfectly clear from the get-go. Let me also state that we're not going to reveal at this point in time any of the details of this investigation. Why? There are still witnesses that we are looking for. And I do not want to be accused of tainting this investigation or suggesting a story about this investigation to witnesses that we have not located and talked to. Simply put, that is the appropriate thing to do. The speed, the time frame in which we get to a conclusion is of no moment. Everyone should pause and reflect and recognize that a rush to judgment does not equal anything. In fact, in the criminal justice process, if you do not dot every I and cross every T, and there are deficiencies in what you do from an investigatory standpoint, it has dire consequences. So out of an abundance of caution and out of respect to both the decedent, Mr. Joe McKnight, as well as the individual who shot and killed Mr. McKnight, Mr. Ronald Gasser. That's the way it has to be. And it can be no other way. In fact, to even belabor this point even more, we just finished the autopsy roughly 2 hours ago, which is a very important portion of the investigation, and it would be completely premature in this kind of case in order to reveal anything prior to that. And in fact, they are still reviewing their results. I can't help but comment when listening to the radio and the comments on the social network. Anytime a statement starts with, "I feel," you're often running on a very dangerous trail. Any story other than the story that you hear from me, the coroner, Dr. Jerry Satanovich, or the district attorney, Paul Connick, should not be believed. Because our story is going to start with the evidence suggests, the evidence reveals, or the evidence is. So again, I would ask the community to pause and reflect that when you start with "I feel," that is a slippery slope. Your feelings, my feelings, his feelings, Mark's feelings are of no moment. They don't matter. It's what the evidence suggests, what the evidence reveals, and what the evidence is, simply put. So I would strongly suggest that you stop believing what you're reading. So let me put just a couple of things that I've been made aware of to rest. Mr. Gasser did not stand over Mr. McKnight and fire shots into him. The 3 casings were located within the vehicle. Mr. Gasser was in his vehicle when he fired 3 shots. So that did not happen. That witness account, and we talked to that witness, if it's the same one that I'm talking about, is factually incorrect. It did not happen. There is no video that we've been able to recover at this point in time, so that does not exist either. We have no witness account of an apology being made by Mr. McKnight to Mr. Gasser. So that did not occur. And I'm sure by the time we finish this press conference that there will now be new iterations of this story now that I've dispelled those 3 ingredients of a story. So once again, I caution you to only believe the story that comes from me, Dr. Satanovich, or the District Attorney, Paul Connick. So none of that is true. I've been already accused of dropping the ball, of doing this and doing that, because we released Mr. Gasser last evening after we took his statement. As I said before, external influences will not motivate this office one way or the other as to how we are going to conduct this investigation strategically. And because there are still witnesses that are out there, I can't go into the details as to why that is at this point in time, but I can tell you I can't wait for that moment so that I can set the record straight. But we will leave no stone unturned. We've had as many as 30 to 40 officers working this investigation through the night. And we will continue to work this, and that's my commitment to the community. Because in the end, the community's interest is larger than any individual's interest. And we have to keep that in mind. The fairness and equity interest of the community outweighs the interest of any individual. Now, to the protesters out front who have asked for us to block the West Bank Expressway, that is not going to happen. In 20 minutes, you will be given a command to not obstruct the main travel portion of the West Bank Expressway. If you continue to do so, you will go to jail. You have every right to peacefully demonstrate on the property between the fence and the highway, but you will not be allowed to obstruct the safety and security of the traveling public in Jefferson Parish, and we will not cordon off a piece of the elevated West Bank Expressway that's been requested, a piece of the lower West Bank Expressway that's been requested, the interstate highway, or any other piece of highway in Jefferson Parish for purposes of that demonstration. It is not going to happen. That is not what we do. So that we're clear, you will abide by the Code of Ordinances of Jefferson Parish. You will abide by the state statutes of the state of Louisiana. And we can do this in an appropriate way, and I am more than willing to work with you so that you can get your message across, but it's not going to be to the detriment of the other citizens of Jefferson Parish, and it's not going to be in violation of any existing laws. So I'll turn it over to the coroner at this point in time that will give you some preliminary results as it relates to the autopsy.
Good afternoon, everybody. I was at the scene yesterday, and this morning the autopsy was performed by Dr. Dana Trosclair at my office with myself in attendance. I'll give you a brief rundown of the wounds that Mr. McKnight suffered. First, he had a wound to his left hand with a grazed wound to the knuckle of the third finger on his left hand, which subsequently entered the index finger and exited on the palmar side of his index finger. That was wound number one. Wound number two is an entry wound to his right shoulder that went into his right lung cavity, punctured his right lung, and was entered here and lodged around the 9th thoracic vertebrae laterally. It was palpable under the skin, but still in his body. The third gunshot was right below his right nipple, just a little medial to his right nipple. It entered into his chest, down into his liver, and went through his liver and into his kidney, through his liver, and exited in his right low back at the L1 level. That's the three wounds that Mr. McKnight had. I can tell you, I've spoken extensively with Dr. Trosclair and looked at it myself. The wounds are not consistent with being shot from above, on the ground. And that's all I have to say.
Look, I'm just here just to say that it shouldn't be a rush to judgment. that the facts are still coming out and that we should base it on facts and not Facebook and other social media. I pray for the McKnight family and continue to pray for them. And remember that we lost someone in this. Rather than putting out misinformation, we need to focus on the facts. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Spears. I appreciate your support and would ask that, you know, the rest of the community support us in this endeavor as well. And I echo his comments to the McKnight family, having followed Joe McKnight's Jr.'s career for a long time. I'll be happy to answer any questions that anyone may have.
Sure.
Sheriff, can you say what may have precipitated the chase?
That we're still trying to put all of that together. Preliminarily, it may have been simply cutting one off in front of one recklessly while driving on the bridge.
Can you
Sheriff,
say
there's a
which
question
side
we've
you
been
are?
getting in the community, I think you could clear up. Some are asking why, if he admitted to shooting him, was he released? Why couldn't he have been held while you investigate? They don't understand that. Could you clear that up?
In this state, there are some relative statutes that provide defenses to certain crimes. And we have, for example, officers have those same defenses. So when we shoot and kill somebody, the question is, it's a homicide. The question is it justified or not? And as you go through this process and we're piecing together all of these statements, that's why. The fact of the matter is, as I said before, you're very much on a slippery slope if you make a rush to judgment and you make a strategic or tactical error from the beginning that gets it very hard to recover later. So out of an abundance of caution, look, the easiest thing for me would have been book him, Dano, right? But the fact of the matter is that in trying to flesh out these details as it relates to all of this and not having that rush to judgment and doing this in a very deliberate and appropriate fashion, we chose not to do that. Of course, where that leads us at this point in time is that everybody wants to make this about race. This isn't about race. And I'll just throw this out, folks, just so that everybody knows so that there's no hiding the ball. The gentleman that raised Joe McKnight Jr. used to work for this office. So this office, and many of the members that are sitting over here, they're close to his family. The person that's probably got more of a concern than anything else is Mr. Gasser. Because he doesn't know this, he does now, but used to work for this office. So, you know.
He did, Gasser?
No. The man that raised Joe McKnight Jr. used to be a deputy for the Jefferson Parish Sheriff's Office. All right? So there's a connection. All right? This will be done in the appropriate way.
Sheriff, since you mentioned race, are you investigating this as a possible hate crime?
We have nothing of any witness that reveals anything to us at this point in time to suggest that.
Did Mr. Gasser have a concealed handgun license?
That is still being researched.
Sheriff,
Sheriff,
you mentioned that McKnight's, the man who raised McKnight used to work for the office. Does Gasser have any kind of law enforcement background or connection?
Not
to
that
the
we're
jail?
aware of.
Sheriff, has Gasser said anything during the interview that you can share with us?
I'm not, no.
And can you confirm, just to make sure, that Gasser is white, is that correct?
I'm sorry?
Gasser is white, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Sheriff, maybe if you could explain how charging decisions are made, just because Mr. Gasser was released from custody you still have a lot of time to build a case, and you still have a lot of time to charge him if that's what the evidence shows?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you know, ultimately, we would, if we were to book him, we would end up in a preliminary examination, and we would have to reveal certain things at that point in time and prove that we had probable cause for an arrest that would have been the standard. And the fact of the matter is that we felt, as of last night, out of an abundance of caution, we did not want to get to that threshold at that point in time. So, you know, I mean, people can Monday morning quarterback what we've done. Mr. Gasser is not going anywhere. He has been completely cooperative with us in every request that we have made. You know, so that's not the issue. Simply put, the issue at the end of the day is that we will do a very thorough and deliberate investigation.
Does Gasser have any record?
Gasser has, I believe, an issue that's 10 years old, and I'm not sure of all the details of that.
Can you explain the state's stand your ground law, and do you think that that ultimately may apply in this case?
It is one of the issues that looms on the horizon as it relates to, I'd rather not opine on that at this point in time. I mean, you know, and as I said before, folks, the difficulty here is that I still got other witnesses that I want to talk to. And I don't want to taint their testimony, you know, or their statement to us. And I hope that you understand. I'm trying to be as transparent as possible here. I'm trying to calm the community, the angst, the anxiety, but I'm trying to, at the same time, delicately balance that against the sanctity of the investigation. And I just hope that you would be understanding and that the community would be understanding that that's what we need to do here. And that's why y'all have been around me long enough to know I don't evade questions. But there are other witnesses that we know that are out there that we're trying to get our hands around. We found some last night. Actually, we communicated with some through Facebook, and we actually were able to find them and talk to them. And there are others that we're still looking for. So, you know, and we will continue to give you updates as we have relevant information that we can provide.
Were any
So
weapons
thank-
found in the search of McKnight's?
Thank you very much.